Joe Rogan is one of the most popular podcasters in the world. He has got more than 190 million downloads per month, along with almost 11 million listeners per episode, which is just epic. And here is what makes him an outstanding podcaster.
It's hard because you don't get that many conversations with people where you disagree with them and it's not confrontational. Usually they're confrontational or you're confrontational. So it always starts off on the bad foot. I've learned how to do it from doing this podcast. And one of the most surprising things about doing this podcast is I learned how to talk to people better.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was a thing. I thought I just was talking to people.
Yeah.
But then I realized somewhere along the way, not only are people listening, but sometimes I'm annoying. Okay, like, how do I do this where I'm less annoying? And in learning how to do things that are less annoying, I've become a more compassionate conversationalist. I understand how to talk to people better, and I've gotten I apply it to my whole life now. I've gotten better at it, and I see people who are bad at it. It's so frustrating. Like I have some really smart friends. And, you know, I'll talk to them and they just fucking interrupt each other and they interrupt you and they don't let anybody talk. They're not listening. They're just waiting for their time to talk. And it's so strange. They're not able to ever consider other people's opinions. They think that everyone but them is wrong.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's basically like, you know how it is when you see a YouTube video where people have no idea how to fight and you see them fight? You know that thing?
Of course I do.
That is so crazy. To this day, I'm like, I've been doing martial arts my whole life. I don't want to fight anybody, but I see people fight and they have no idea how to fight. I'm like, I imagine myself if I was in a street fight with this guy. I'm like, I would be like, why are you doing this, man? This is so crazy. You don't know what you're doing. Hey, you're crazy. You're going to get killed. You're lucky I'm nice. But that's the same way with conversation. There's a lot of people out there having conversations have no idea how to talk. They're not even really listening to you.
Yeah.
They're just so, and like, why are you doing that? Why are you arguing? You're in a conversation. You don't even know how to have one.
Yeah.
You're not listening.
Yeah.
You're just talking. You're just using someone like a wall that you're throwing a fucking tennis ball off of. It's bizarre.
The art of making good conversation, and that's what is his open secret. And if you want to do that, all you need to do is to replace confrontation with compassion. As he said, he's a compassionate communicator. That's what he has learned. That's what he has mastered, which is what apparently is minting him so much of money. And not just money, his ability of making conversation allowed him to have access to some of the really great minds from almost all the arena. His guest list include not just comedian, not just entrepreneur, but people from a scientific community to the people who are conspiracy theorists, in fact. So imagine the kind of knowledge, kind of input you're going to get if you do know how to ask good questions, keep your mouth shut, and do not create controversy by giving opinion over some of the experts. And he knows exactly how to make people talk.
I know it's valuable for people that are listening, but just for me as a human, for my own education, it's been everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I've learned more from talking to people on this podcast, both from talking to scholars and scientists and really intelligent people and morons.
Yeah.
You know, I've learned a lot from talking to morons. Just the awkwardness in the way they process thoughts and the way they view the world and the way they've chosen to communicate. Like you learn from that. Just like you're saying, like sparring with someone who's like has terrible habits.
Yeah.
You go, oh, look at this guy. What the fuck are you doing, man?
Yeah.
But you learn. You can learn from people.
Even though his podcast ranges from 1 hour to 3 hours, people stay glued listening to it. And I, for one, would look for almost all the clips of Joe Rogan Experience because there is so much to learn. Not just the knowledge that I get from the guest list, but by the communication ability that he has. He makes people vulnerable. He makes people talk about and, in fact, just go on talking about their personal life a lot of times. And it is so endearing that I would like to tell you some of the elements that you can learn from his podcast that you can definitely use in your everyday's communication to sign through life and become one of the greatest conversationalists in the room.
You're welcome.
It's very good to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
And thanks for not lighting this place on fire.
You're welcome. That's coming later.
How does one, just in the middle of doing all the things you do, create cars, rockets, all this stuff you're doing, constantly innovating, decide to just make a flamethrower? Where do you have the time for that?
Messes up my hair.
Good to see you.
Good to
What's
see
going
you
on
too,
your coat today? Every day is a new one.
Yeah, well, I've got this suit maker, LGFG, Dmitry, the crazy Russian, and he, pays attention to what I'm doing and makes me the suits that he thinks are suitable, and
You've
I
gotten
wear
quite
them.
extravagant though. Like sometimes, like one half of the suit is one color.
Yeah.
Like it looks like you're getting bored. You just want to switch it up a lot.
He sends me these damn things, and I get them, and I think, there's no way I wear that. There's no way I'll wear that. And then I put it on, and I think, I like that. Yeah. And Tammy puts up with it, so.
Is it everyday suits now with you? Is that?
I'm in a suit pretty much all the time,
Is there a reason for that?
Did you see how smartly he makes people feel very comfortable in the very beginning of the first few minutes by doing two things? The one, he often gives compliment, and those compliments are not just about how one looks, but what one has done in past, what he liked about that person in terms of work and his presence. And often when we are complimented, we feel special. When we feel special, we like the person. Hence, I'm also giving a message. I mean, the Joe Rogan was giving a message in almost all the interviews by complimenting his, the guest, that I am your side. It's not gonna be the interview. It is just going to be a casual conversation, which we both should enjoy equally. That's the one thing he does. And the second thing, he would never start with $1 million questions. What he does, he rather talks about the dog and its breed and cold plunges and the LSD and how the morning was, how gawky he feels today. He had good night's sleep or not? His guest had a good night's sleep or not? Why he appears the way he appears? So he would often start by talking about the random stuff, and then slowly he would transition into $1 million questions, whatever the purpose of the podcast is. And the third thing, his conversation, his entire 1 to 3 hours of podcast often ranges from the basic, this conversational one-liner small talk to some of the really big controversial, remarks. But he would never go ahead with a, set of questions that he has and he would start asking. He would let it be completely organic, and that is the beauty into it. And that is why I believe Joe Rogan is really applauded by his viewership, actually, because we all love how the conversation actually flow naturally without so much of preparation prior into it. And there is actually improvisation that takes place, because sometimes you'd notice when he's talking, when the conversation is going on with some of the guests, it's not flowery, it is not going so smoothly. There is a lot of or a lot of interjections into.
My question is, like, I know how much time you must be spending on your Tesla factory. I know how much time you must be spending on SpaceX, and yet you still have time to dig holes under the ground in LA and come up with these ideas and then implement them. Like,
I got a million ideas.
I'm sure you do.
There's no shortage of that. Yeah.
I just don't know how you manage your time. I don't understand it. It doesn't even seem humanly possible.
To like, in the same way that being gay isn't a choice. Yeah.
Okay, but if that's who they are, if they think that they're a girl, why do you have to give them hormones to make them more of a girl?
Because I'm sorry. Can you expand on the question?
It's a simple question. If you say that the child thinks it's a girl, so you're going to give the child hormones.
Mm-hmm.
If the child thinks it's a girl, let it be a girl. Like, you don't have. Why are you adding hormones? If you're shooting hormones into a child, and you're affecting the child's development, you're saying that's not a choice. That's nonsense. Of course it's a choice. You're choosing to chemically change this child's body. You're choosing to inject things into this child's body on a regular basis that are going to radically affect the physical development of their body.
Yeah.
And you're saying that this isn't a choice. Well, it's definitely a choice to do that.
And here's the next thing that you can learn from his communication ability. He would not engage in back and forth debate with you. He would rather ask you a lot of why question and how question to understand your perspective, and at least to give you the idea that I did not know that, now I understand it, rather than putting back and forth the ball in the court and not reaching to any conclusion. And that's how conversation, a good conversation, is supposed to be, where you make people go on talking about it.
All in.
What's interesting is that the town is...
Wait, have you seen Starry Night in Bacon? Somebody did. Dig it up on the screen. Somebody did it in Bacon. It was just crazy.
Oh, God, how weird.
Yeah,
That's
so
weird.
Yeah.
How weird. Go back to the original one, please. What's interesting about the original one is that the global warming thing is very much connected to a certain type of ideology. A certain type of person who thinks of themselves
It doesn't matter
as a
to me.
no-nonsense person.
What I'm saying,
right?
yes, it does matter. Because when ice melts, it takes up lower volume than it was when it became ice. And that's why pipes break.
I thought pipes break just because the water expands.
Yeah, I just described that in the opposite direction.
Oh, but I didn't know it gets larger.
That's what expansion means. What
Right.
kind of what's with your vocabulary here? Distant future, you can just redirect a comet and get all the water you need. But
How far distant is that?
the comet's everywhere, dude. We're in a
Right.
shooting gallery.
Yeah, that's not what I asked.
Oh,
how
what-
far away do you think it is before we could redirect?
How far
one?
away in time?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. That it would then collide with Mars or even Earth if you wanted. If Earth needed some more fresh water.
Yeah, I heard that there's a
But
possibility.
the problem is, and all ingredients have a triple point.
Wow. What is the
And
atmospheric
Mars,
pressure?
where it all came from inside the Earth through volcanoes. Volcanoes emit lakes. Whatever is your concept, the discoveries of astrophysicists bring you closer to it.
I get your perspective. Let me be the opposing view. They feel
No, I'm not trying
Right.
to.
No, I know you're not.
This is just information.
Okay.
This is information, and I walk out of the room.
so specifically these things have to take
Europeans
place.
didn't come to Hawaii.
And it was, I got very fortunate. It was a night where the moon was not out.
Yes, moon is
And
not the
it was-
astronomer's
we were-
favorite thing. Yeah.
And here you saw he displays a fantastic cues of how he is very receptive, that he will not talk over you. Even if you are talking unreasonable, he would wait for his chance, he would try to intervene, but then he would stop immediately. He'll give you some of the really frustrated, the expression as well, but he would not talk over you, which is what essentially I believe everybody needs to understand, which is what makes a normal talk, conversation, really outstanding piece of information for other people, where you are engaging in a talk not for the purpose of a debate, but to make this conversation a really great piece of information.
These conversations for me are like, it's like going to school. It's like every day I'm going to school about humans. Going to school about whatever the subject they're talking to me about, but also going to school about how, the more people you talk to, especially like this, no cell phones, we're wearing headphones. And one of the reasons why I like headphones is because your voice is in my ear.
Yeah.
You're not over there. You're right here, man. We're locked in.
And with that note, if you really liked these all clips and the ideas that I discussed about his communication, do not forget to like, comments, and subscribe to the channel. And one more thing, if you want me to make a detailed video or give an opinion about some of his really good podcasts, do let me know in the comment section below.